Recording. Yes. So, do you want to do the opening introduction for us, please, bruv?
Yes, indeed. Welcome along to our Wednesday afternoon edition of the Alien Spaceship, where we hope you'll find one or two things we talk about of interest. I'm Trevor Gear, and he calls me bruv.
And I'm Emmy Hickins, and he calls me Cuz. Welcome to
Right.
the. Yes. So, do you want to do the welcome to the yeah. All right. There was some feedback there, echoing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So yeah, that's sorted. Right. Okay. So we're going to talk about a few topics today. I think we'll start with we did talk about said we're going to talk about the childbearing. Whether to have children or not
yeah.
to have children and how many to have, but we'll come to that in a bit. While we just talk about um, first thing we're going to talk about is music therapy. And I
Oh,
yeah, and I find it so timely because it's something that we both do, don't it? You and I,
yeah,
you know.
we do.
Yeah, so I found this thing on Adele. We're not promoting Adele, by the way. It's no, but it has to do with Adele. So it says in 2012, a 7-year-old um Charlotte Nave from Trodden, Lancashire, awakened from a life-threatening coma induced by a brain hemorrhage. After a week of unresponsiveness, her mother, Layla, began singing along to Adele's Heat, Rolling in the Deep, which prompted Charlotte to smile and
Oh,
eventually
well,
make a full recovery. I seen it on the news when it first broke, actually. But I just remembered it and I thought, music therapy. So, what do you make of music therapy, bro?
yeah. I mean, I think it is a thing, isn't it? It's well known to be used by psychologists and others to help people perhaps get through difficult times. And I suppose in our own lives. And as you say, you and I particularly are involved in music.
Yeah.
We can express ourselves through our own music. That's also a form of music therapy, I think. I saw a program probably a couple of years ago, and it stuck in my mind. It was a quiz show of some sort, and there
Mm,
was a woman on there who I think she's a comedian. I forget her name, but she's fairly well known as I remember it. And the subject of music came up in one of the questions.
mm,
And I was amazed when she said, "Oh, I've never liked music. I've never had anything to do with it." Because I've never heard anybody say something like that before. And then I think, do I know anybody in my own fairly wide circle of friends and acquaintances who would say, I don't like music? And I think, oh, I don't know, maybe there are some, but I don't actually think that most people have a dislike of music. So I
mm,
was stunned, and I wished I could have asked her a question. Nobody did on this quiz thing. But to say, well, how can you have got to the age of whatever she was and said you don't like music? Because we're surrounded by it in many ways, whether it's not so much the radio nowadays, but there's radios, there's all the streaming services. Most people, I think, have some form of social music in their phone or a record collection and so on. So yeah, music therapy is, I think, very important. And if you think it goes back down hundreds of years, thousands of years, with the great
mm,
composers who came up with these incredible pieces of music. I mean, a one that I've always felt emotion listening to is Nimrod, which is part of Elgar's compositions. And it's the most incredibly moving piece of music, no lyrics to it. You just
mm.
listen to the build up that reaches a crescendo. And yeah, I would actually say that. possibly is up there as one of my favorite pieces of music. And so
Mm.
even if we're not seeking therapy
Yeah.
actively, saying, oh, I need to calm down, I need this and that, we come across these pieces of music in certain situations which do have a calming effect. For my part, I find that if I'm stressed, say one evening or one night, I'll put my earbuds in and listen to some calming music, some just music that I like. So
Mm.
it works for me. It works for
Mm.
me, and I think it works for many people. It's a massive part of people's lives. It will be interesting to do a survey. What percentage of your existence do you think is to do with music? And it
Mm.
would be quite interesting to know what people would say. But
Mm.
yeah, music is around us. It's a wonderful gift in this incredible life that we have. The fact that there are seven main notes, or 12 if you count the sharps and the flats, 12 notes from which there are millions, probably billions of permutations.
Mm.
And from great composers to popular music composing and all the different genres, it's something that is just gripping to us, isn't it? I could
Yes.
not imagine my life without music, as it has
Mm.
a large part to play for me. Yeah.
I couldn't imagine my life without music. In fact, when you said that, I thought, who doesn't like music? But I worked with a guy in Huddersfield, which is not far from where I live, by the way. So it's between Bradford, Leeds, so Huddersfield is somewhere there, and 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 I was quite surprised because one time he owned quite a vast portfolio of properties, so I used to manage these properties for him, do repairs and call in repair guys and stuff like that. Whenever the tenants needed, Anyway, and I got to have a conversation with him, and I said to him, I said, I'm not going to say his name on air, but I said to him, I said, what kind of music do you listen to? I was just intrigued because
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
make music, they want to know what kind of music other people listen to. And he said, I don't listen to music, man. And I thought, you're joking, right? He said, no, I don't listen to music. And I said, what do you listen to? I was really intrigued just to
Yeah.
know. That was the very first time in my entire existence that I've met one person that does not like music. He said, I just don't like music. I said, what do you do then? He said, well, I just listen to my religious, things, on podcasts or whatever, on television. I watch it. And I said, wow. I said, you don't like music? He said, no, I don't listen. Because when you meet people, you expect them to say, well, this is the kind of music that I like. You generally feel like somebody has to
Mm.
connect with a particular kind of music, not generally not liking any music at all. So, you want to think, well, all right, so if you don't like rap, that's fine. Not everybody likes rap. Maybe you don't like a lot of this heavy metal or whatever. Or maybe some people just don't like classical music.
Yeah.
Some people don't like
Yeah.
country music. You can understand that. We all fit into a certain category, apart from some of us, like myself and yourself. I'm hoping that, generally just love music. I mean, I just love music. It doesn't matter what kind of
Mm.
music it is, as long as it's not vulgar in nature, it's not explicit. And as long as it's not, I mean, it could be in any language at all. If it's good music, we love it. So I was taken aback a little bit just to see somebody that didn't
Yeah.
like music, and that was it. That was the very first person that I've seen in my whole life that did not
Yeah.
like music. Well, I don't understand it. Yeah, it
I mean,
just
I think the thing is as
yeah,
well, the thing with it, we're talking about therapy, which music can have and it can be.
yeah,
But for me, and I'm sure for you and millions, music can bring out real powerful emotions. I mean, in certain circumstances, it can actually bring tears to the eyes. It can make people weep, excuse me, and sob. Um, and I know, going to football briefly, the subject of football, and I often mention Crystal Palace's victory in last season's FA Cup. But
Yeah.
the final whistle, when Palace finally won that game, first major trophy ever, really. I mean, that in itself, on that final whistle, the emotions and videos will show people that almost every Palace supporter was in tears. It was the most amazing thing, or on the verge of. And then a song or part of a song that had been played at the ground in some of the matches leading up to the final at Selhurst Park and so on was Elvis Presley's "Can't Help Falling in Love," and the
Mm,
bit where well, it's a bit where it's in the chorus element where he says, you know, I can't help falling in love, and it's a fantastic tune as well as great lyrics. One of the great all-time love songs, undoubtedly, and
mm,
his was the original Elvis Presley in whenever it was. But that particular line became a bit of a Palace line about loving the team and so on. And when they put that on, it was pretty quickly after the final whistle, it just reduced everybody at the Palace end and probably some of the other end who were still there to tears. It was so moving. And I think that is the thing with music. It's not just a series of notes, you know, which you play on a piano or on a guitar, on an accordion or whatever. It's so much more than that. You put those notes in a certain sequence and add some beautiful words, some lovely lyrics to it, emotional words,
mm,
and it can have a huge impact on the body, a positive impact, which again is bringing out endorphins, all the compounds, the chemicals which are healing in our bodies, the very things
mm.
we need to heal us. And I think that goes a long way to explaining why it's worth a bottle of medicine or bottle of
It
tablets,
is.
you
It
know,
is. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the effect it can have on us. It's a very powerful thing, this great link between the mind and the body. I think we underestimate that at our peril, really, because it's I've learned, I think, over time that what we think is so important in terms of our peace of mind, in terms of our attitudes, because we have such things as confirmation bias. If we get upset about something, and then our mind will tend to look for those things which support that view. So we have a lot of that stuff. But if we think, basically, I mean, it's easy to say these things. We all have poor thoughts, negative thoughts, we worry, all the rest of it. But if we can try and keep positive with our thoughts, that gives a great positive to the body. And music is a great way of putting us in that situation. It's a wonderful therapy, a wonderful way of bringing out emotions which maybe need to come out sometimes. So
Mm.
yeah, it's a wonderful therapy, is music.
It is. It is. I just find that like me with me with music. If I listen, say for instance, because I say for instance, when I used to live in London or when I used to live in Manchester, there's certain songs that I would listen to on the radio, you know, when I'm driving, it come up on the radio, and it just takes me back. And when I hear that song again, and say for instance I've moved to Bradford and I'm listening to it in Bradford, I'm thinking it takes me back to that time when I used to live in that. So it just brings out these deep emotions. It can just
Yeah,
that word help you to, you know, deal with certain emotions
yeah,
anyway. But yeah, I love music. I love
yeah.
music. It's like a
And
saved file, and then it calls it
yeah,
up, you know, and you can replay those memories in your head once more.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you raised a good point there that music is one of the most powerful associative things that take us back to times. I mean, I still can hear a piece of music from when I was young, very young, and not often, but you come across a piece of music sometimes, or you're on Spotify, whatever, and your mind is transported back to those times, where where you what you were doing, where you were living, or relationships you were in, or whatever.
Yeah,
Music
yeah,
is a great means of transporting back to good memories as well. So yeah, it's got
absolutely.
all sorts of qualities which are there. Perhaps we don't always think about them too much.
Yeah, it just helps to unlock all these, all these beautiful, beautiful memories.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Okay. So, the having to have or not to have, and we're talking about children. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of couples are, choosing not to have children. Actually, when it just reminds me of when I used to be single, which is not long time ago.
You look back to those days quite fondly, don't you, Cuz?
I'm not admitting it on air because I found out that Jeanette listens to us now, so I've got to be careful.
You've been careful there, yeah.
I've got to be
And how
careful.
long? And
Yeah.
how long have you been manacled now? I mean, married now? Not
But
very long, is it?
about 3 months now, I think.
Yeah,
April got married in April, May, June, July. Well, just
12
less than
months,
three
May, June,
months.
July.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Less than 3 months. Not quite 3 months, but getting there. But yeah. So when I used to be single, I used to, obviously you do court people, don't you? And there was this lady that I spoke to, and I said to her, I said, do you like children? And she said the most funniest thing ever. She said, no, 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 no. I don't want children. I don't want anybody's children. And I sort of put two and two together, and it's sort of like because she had an elder sister that has two beautiful, beautiful twins, two little girls, but they are ever so stubborn. And I
yeah.
and I said, are you sure you're not linking it with, your two little niece that, she said, yeah, she said it can be a handful. And I thought, well, you cannot on that basis decide not to have children of your own, can you? And I said, how much of a deal breaker is it? It didn't matter to me. And I said, how much of a deal breaker is it to you whether a man wants children or not? She said, yeah, it's a big deal. She said, because I do not want children. I said, what if you change your mind in the future, and think, well, now I do want children, maybe when I got married. She said, it'll never happen to me. It would never, ever. She seems so determined not to have
Mm.
children. But that's just one aspect of it, isn't it? Now, when we then talk about other people not wanting to have children, there could be millions, there could be, variety of reasons why people choose not to have children. Some people, perhaps not of their own choosing. Some people have left it too late, and then they find out they can't actually have children. If you was to advise anyone, any family member that was contemplating, you know, whether to have children or not, what would your advice be? What would you
Well,
be
that's
advising?
that's a very big question, isn't it? I think
Hmm.
there's sort of an assumption, first of all, that everybody does or should want to have children, and I
Hmm.
think that's the first big mistake we all may make, because there are people who quite legitimately, for their own reasons, sometimes, well, always very good reasons, I guess, will
Hmm.
say they do not want children. And I
Hmm.
think it's a bit like in life generally. Some people, some jobs, if you like, careers surprise me. I think, why on earth would somebody want to do that? For example, I mean, I've got nothing but admiration for people who join the Navy and the submarine service.
Hmm.
Now, I've always known you wouldn't get me on a submarine for love nor money. Even when I was in a year ago in Las Vegas. We went on an aircraft carrier to look around, and it was quite an experience.
Mm.
And alongside that, there was one of their former military submarines, which you could actually go in. Um, it was very long, and just obviously a submarine there in dry dock, so it wasn't under the water. But I reflected and I thought, despite others in our party going in there, I wouldn't, because I've always been a bit claustrophobic, but I just didn't really want to go and submit myself, and especially as there's quite a long line of people waiting, so you could go into this, and it probably would take the walk through it probably while they describe things was, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, and
Mm.
you're in a situation where you've got people queued up behind you, people in front. So you're a little bit trapped, which in itself is not,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not the end of the world. But I just chose not to do that. But I often
Right.
think that they're good people to go on these submarines to patrol the seas and whatever they do. But I think who would suddenly decide, yeah, I want to go and live 3 or 6 months at a time under the
Yeah.
sea, because you're
Yeah.
inevitably in very cramped conditions. You can't see out. You've got no windows to see the fish or the whales or anything else. So you're in this little contained world. I mean, they have the mess, as they call it, the social bit where they will play games in their social time. They have tiny bunks, by all accounts.
Mm.
So I think, why would anybody do that? And actually, if you then think about other careers that people undertake, the same
Mm.
things can apply. I mean, someone who would be a steeplejack, great heights and things like that.
Mm.
People who clean windows of the great skyscrapers
Yeah.
on the sort of crane things that come down. And I could go on coming up with things, and I always think, how can people want that? But actually, the reality of the human condition, I think, is that we're all born with our genetic inheritance and with our environment and everything that goes with that. And the magic, if you like, of evolution is that it does produce the whole range of people needed for their society or societies. There will
Mm.
be people who say, I want to be a doctor, I want to fly an aeroplane, I want to do this, I want to, all sorts of things, all sorts of ambitions that people have. And I think the point is, we somehow know in many, not we're not always right in ourselves. We don't always maintain a view. We have one year, one day to say a year's time. People change their minds, but there are
Mm.
things which most of us say, I wouldn't do that, or I would love to do that. And
Mm.
I bring into that the whole question of wanting children. I mean, I know a couple, probably 2 or 3 couples, but who don't have children, who said right from the outset in their marriage, they're
Mm.
not going to have children. They just did not want to do that. People have different views. I mean, you could argue today, in today's world, with the with the atrocities that go on, and we think of Ukraine and Russia and the Middle East and all that goes on, you
Mm.
can understand some people starting out their life together saying, do we really want to bring children into this world? I mean, it's one thing, for those of us who've been here at all ages, really, and life is pretty good in so many ways. Life is magical in so many ways. But there are negatives in the world, and some people would say, well, yeah, if the global warming, if climate change is a real feature, is that going to impact societies, as well as overcrowding? Is the world becoming too overcrowded? So a lot of people would look at it from their possible children's point of view and say, do I really want to bring them into a world that is in
Mm.
all sorts of problems? So people can have their own reasons, or just simply that they don't want to have children. And I find it quite interesting, without giving away my two beautiful granddaughters, Kimberly and Lucy's private lives or thoughts. In
Mm.
general terms, they've both made it known that, I mean, Kimberly would like 3 or 4 kids. Lucy doesn't want kids. She wants dogs, and she had, she's at uni, but she's always been quite adamant. She wants 2 or 3 dogs and a few cats as well. She loves animals, but
Mm.
she doesn't want children. I've sometimes said to her, "Well, you might change your mind." I mean, she's quite close with her boyfriend at the moment, and you never know where that may go in the
Yeah.
future. But she's quite adamant she doesn't want children, and I actually, knowing Lucy as I do, I think she's likely to stick to that, which is perfectly her decision and her
Yeah.
partner as well. No doubt they would liaise about that, whoever that turns out to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my advice to people, I've not really answered that question. If it was my own personal advice,
Mm,
I think there's nothing more beautiful than two people creating a child. I think this is why I've always had this sense of awe about the female of our species, that she carries and creates, brings forward life, this
mm,
incredible thing which we kind of take for granted. And occasionally you can look around wherever you are, in crowds or not crowds, whatever. And I think every one of us, every single one has come up that birth canal and has been born into this strange sudden existence of consciousness and this magical life and this gift of life. And I think we've talked previously, apparently the odds of any one of us having been born on this planet are 1 in 400 trillion. Now, that's based on the number of people that have been in the world ever, and the fact that you and I and nobody else, none of us will be here if our chain of ancestry had been broken once, going back thousands of years. If that had been broken, all over all that time, we would not be here. And the odds of that succeeding apparently are 1 to 400 trillion. So it's an amazing thought that this is a real gift. Something I find really sad on the subject of what I would call possible people, because
mm,
ultimately we were possible people once, and it
mm,
was touch and go given the odds, but we made it. We made it through here. And
mm.
if you think of wars, and we take currently the Ukraine war, I
Yeah.
mean, hundreds of thousands of young men on both sides of that have lost their lives, literally hundreds of thousands by all accounts. And what
Mm,
it's done, I mean, Russia is obviously a very big country, but the same thing applies to a certain extent. But it's wiped out a huge part of Ukraine's young men generation. Now,
mm,
what impact is that? Will that already have had and will go on having on all those possible people, little babies, people who would have been born
mm.
into this incredible life, this incredible existence with all that it means to us, and all those little possible people won't now come to fruition. And
No.
okay, we can't really think of them in terms of actual living little people because they never did exist, but
Mm,
they would have done, but for this appalling war or
mm,
any war,
mm,
millions more people would have had the chance, this one chance of
mm,
this amazing existence. So yeah, it's a big decision about bringing children into the world. And as I say, my view would be, if I was advising, and I probably have advised um, my own kids and my grandchildren,
mm,
that it really is a wonderful thing to create life. That two people fall in love, they get together, fall in love, and all that that means. And then somehow the magic of life is that they produce a little one. I
mm,
like to think, just to conclude what I'm saying, I liked a little advert that came up on my phone a couple of days ago. And it was a woman, an attractive lady, dancing with her two little girls. They were like mini me's. I mean, I guess they were 5 and 6 or whatever, but they were the blonde lady, and she was the mum, and the two girls, and the husband, the father, was filming them. And
mm.
and the mum said to the little girl, she said, "I I wasn't enough. No, one of me wasn't enough for Daddy, so he's created two more." And that's you. And I thought, yeah, that does say it a lot. You sort of create people after your own image, and it's an incredible thing to be able to do. What a life that we are able to do that. So yeah, my advice would be yes, have children. If all else is equal and you're not dead against it, which you might be,
Mm,
if you're not dead against it, have children and
mm.
give others, give them the thrill ultimately, and you hope it'll be a positive life. Give them the thrill of existence.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. Now we're gonna go to the population impact of that in a minute.
Mm.
But I just wanted to cite an example between me and the missus. So they were a friend of ours. and they were having marital problems. Obviously, I didn't think that I would be in a position to then ring the wife. So we both agreed, you ring the wife, I'll ring the husband, and just see what we see what we can
A sort of
gather in between.
pincer movement. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And see what we can gather in between us to see how, we can help them. Mostly you're not able to do anything in most cases anyway.
Mm.
Sometimes if they're gonna settle, it's usually settled amicably within themselves, the way that they normally do. But anyway, the wife then left the house, and the husband didn't know where the wife was, something like that. Anyway, I then said to her, I don't know what's wrong with them. We're newly married, so we haven't got to that stage yet. And she looked at me and she said, because she'd been married once, my wife. This is a second marriage. And she said, kids can cause a rift in a marriage sometimes, she said. And I thought they were blessings, I thought they were
Mm.
supposed to bring the parents together. She said no. She said sometimes maybe the way that one of the parent disciplines the child might the other parent might not like it or might want a different approach. And they've got two kids, this couple. And he said, well, so sometimes it could be causing a sort of a rift between them. And I just remember the conversation that I had with them, you know, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, well, she doesn't like me talking to, the eldest, and stuff like that." And I thought, oh, so it what's your take on that?
Well, yeah. Can children cause a rift between parents? I mean,
Hmm.
in the early stages, I think they can. I'm trying to think of my own reactions when my two were born.
Hmm.
Obviously, up until the point of birth, you're still a couple. You do things together. You have your own ways of doing things, and obviously, a child comes along, and it disrupts. He or she disrupts everything,
Hmm.
and of course, you anticipate that. There's no real lessons for people having children. Perhaps there should be, but you learn as you go along, really. But I think one factor could be. I don't really think it was in my marriage, but inevitably, in the early months at least, and ongoing really, the
Hmm.
mother is more concerned with the child in the sense that very often they breastfeed, as my then wife did.
Hmm.
Um, I did my bit, getting up at night as well, and helped out everywhere I could. But what does come across, I think, to the male partner very often, is that after a few weeks, few months, you think, wow, we're not doing those together things now. We don't, not that you kind of regret not having that, but
Hmm.
to put it bluntly, you suddenly you start to feel you're being a bit left out. That the relationship, the mother is so consumed with the baby, which she has to be. Let's face it,
Hmm.
in the feeding ways and maybe in other ways, the nurturing, the maternal instincts. A man can, and I'm not saying it's justified as an ongoing thing, but he can have his moments of thinking, where's our relationship gone? And,
Yeah.
and then you have another child, as we did quite quickly,
Yeah.
and you think life will never be the same again, but in a good way. Because for me, as my two kids were growing up, every stage got better, and it was brilliant to be a family of four and all the things that we did together.
Hmm.
So I don't think that was a problem in my marriage, but I think that can disrupt things between a couple because suddenly you've got different priorities. And understandably, very often, a mother, with all that goes with being a mother of a new baby, is
Hmm.
permanently shattered, physically and mentally tired out, which is why men nowadays really should put, their shoulders to the wheel to make it more tolerable for a woman. But I suspect it's women who still take the brunt of the massive change. But the
Mm,
only the real positive is I think that that massive change, you brought this human into this world, you see them grow, you see them develop, and all the good things that go with that. So it's rewarding, hugely rewarding for people
mm,
to maintain that kind of process in the world. But
mm.
yeah, nothing worthwhile is without side effects, and some
Yeah,
things we just have to accept as a rite of passage, par for the course of having a family. But the blessings, I believe, far outweigh the negatives.
it should. It should. Yeah, that's well put. Yeah. Now to the population impact of it. Now, do we think that having more children or lots of children, do we think it's actually harming the environment population wise, or is it helping the age, well,
Yeah.
to replenish the aging population?
Well, we keep being told, don't we, that our population isn't having enough children. And I
Mm,
think that's on the basis of, exactly as you say, replacing the aging population on the rolling basis that it goes, so that ultimately it's suggested there won't be enough new people coming through to do the jobs, to provide the economy, the income for the society in which we live.
mm,
So I guess we're told very strongly that it's we need to have more children, and I suppose the fact that politically the government have removed a two-child benefit cap, so people getting three or four or five kids will
mm,
still get benefits for that. Um, Maybe that's their response to that particular situation. But conversely, I suppose we can create a situation where we're overpopulated. I mean, we don't go down the politics route, but on the subject we're talking about, I
mm,
don't think it is just a case of people should have a lot more children. I think it should be measured. And like anything else, I think market forces, let the thing sort itself out. People will have children when they want to. And
mm,
I believe nature and evolution of nature will, that's what I said about it provides people who will do all the different jobs. I think nature will provide enough people who want to keep the population renewing to have
mm.
kids. Not everybody will want kids, and to me, there's no negative on that at all. I actually
No.
respect people who say no, it's not for me. I'm pleased for friends, family who have the kids, but I think I have other things to offer, other things I want to do, and that's perfectly reasonable. But I think these things balance themselves out without artificial pumping from politics or anything else to try and
Mm,
generate the thing. Because when you do that, there's always going to be a bigger downside. I mean, we know we go out in most of our towns and cities now, we go out in our car and the roads are rammed, even when it's not school holidays, or when it is, all the time there seem to be more and more cars on the road,
mm,
with all that means. If you overcrowd people, I think you're going to get more problems with that. So I
mm,
think it's like everything else; it's got to find its own level. And yeah, I think there is a risk of overpopulation, but
mm,
yeah, I think nature knows best, and when
mm,
nature decides that some things need to happen, it
mm.
will make them happen,
Yeah.
irrespective of what we humans do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh, I respect that. Now, just going back to the just going back to the rift kind of thing, in a marriage where kids okay. I just remembered, and I'm going to relate this experience. And this was quite recent. So we went away for the weekend. Janelle and I, we went away. We went away on a Thursday, came back on a Monday. But anyway, one of my wife's sons had, yeah, he has a dog. It's a really active dog. It's very, very active. It's only a small dog. It's a pug, but it's very small, but it's very, very strong and very, very active. Anyway, so she said to me I think it was the week before, she said, "Oh, they're going away and they want us to have the dog." I said, who's us?
Good answer. Good answer, Cuz.
And she said, us, we're going to look after the dog. I said, oh dear me. I said, the dog's called Roscoe, by the way. I love Roscoe, but he's so hyper. He just jumps all over you, wants to lick you all the time. You could just go to the toilet, come back, and he's just wagging
Yeah,
his tail, getting excited. You're like, I've only just been been to the toilet. And he just wants to jump all over you. And I'm
yeah.
thinking the claws, I'll have to wear, long pants so you don't, the claw, I don't get I don't get clawed. And it's all these things just coming into my head, and I'm thinking, can't somebody else have it?
And he'll be up on the bed with you as well, don't forget.
Was was so I've been sleep deprived. I've been previously deprived. And it's this excited dog that I have to let out in the garden every now and then. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, can you let the dog out in the garden? I'm like, can't you do it? Oh, all right, I have to do it. I'm like, all right, don't worry, I'll do it. And then you let it out in the garden. He goes out in the garden, you chuck the ball around. He goes and he brings the ball back, looking at you, puppy-eyed. I'm like, okay. So I just remembered it's not only humans that can cause a rift. Pets can too.
have you had him yet? Has he actually been with you?
So we had him. We had him
Yeah.
last week. We had him last week from Monday up until Thursday afternoon because we had to go away Thursday afternoon. And then we have to go and get him back on a Monday.
All right.
So he's there now at home. He's there now at
Yeah.
home. And when I get home, that dog's gonna be all over my trousers, and I don't know where it's been. Well, anyway, he just sits. You're watching football. It's there, sat next to you, just jumping all over you, and then he's calm for like 3 minutes. Then he goes and plays with his bone and ball, and then he comes back again. You're like, all right, okay. So I'm trying to watch this football, uh, but it should be back. It's gonna be with us till Friday. So.
Yeah.
When I'll be watching
The end.
England, when
The
I'll be
yeah.
watching
The end
England
is
play,
on
the,
Saturday. The end is in sight, cuz that's the
the end
thing,
is
isn't it? The
inside.
end is in sight.
End is inside.
No,
Anyway,
good for
yes,
you.
yeah. Anyway, so this is all we've got time for on the Alien Spaceship. Do you want to conclude for us, bruv, please?
Yes, we had some interesting things to think about in that discussions. I hope you found it of interest as well, you people out there listening and watching. I'm Trevor Gear, and he calls me Bruv.
And I'm Emmy Hickins, and he calls me Cuz, and it's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Oh, bro.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Well
Well
done.
done.
Well done for helping me out because I
Yeah, you did well to come up with those. That was good.
the
Interesting
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
I'll just have a
Okay.
quick
So,
break, and then I'll
yeah.
be
So,
back in a
well,
tick.
all right. Okay. Yeah. We'll have a quick
Okay.
break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.